We did have sexual activity when he was on duty. He misled me under false pretenses, under the guise of, I'm a police officer, you can trust me.
This story starts on a night out and ends with an officer under criminal investigation.
He knew all the bouncers in the area. He would always pretend that he was looking for suspects, but he was always looking for me.
In the last year, there has been a 67% rise in sexual misconduct allegations against officers in England and Wales. This story questions if the complaint system is failing those who come forward.
To report a police officer to the police is the most traumatising thing I've ever done in my entire life.
With us all week is the amazing broadcaster, Jackie Adedeji.
Jackie Adedeji is a TV presenter.
I'm a journalist and I'm a big advocate of therapy.
But in summer 2016, she was new to London and on a night out in the busy East End.
Two men walked towards me and my friend and said, "Are you girls okay?" And we said, "Yeah, we're fine, we're actually a bit lost." And we started flirting and just having a conversation. And then I heard something and it sounded like a speaker. And I was like, what the hell is that sound? And they both went like, "Don't say anything, girls, but we're undercover coppers."
The officer introduced himself as Danny Stevens, initiating a sexual relationship that included sexual contact on duty.
I definitely consented to meeting up with him and things like that, but the point is that I didn't realise how much the dynamic of him being a police officer played a part in our relationship and how he used that, because I met him more on duty than I ever met him when he was off duty. I think he liked me seeing him arresting people. One occasion he actually kissed me and then was like, right, I've got to nick this guy.
But what Jackie did not know is that Danny Stevens is not the officer's name. He had used a false identity. We cannot reveal his real name for legal reasons yet, but we can say he was part of a Met Police team designated to keep women safe. Unknown to Jackie, he was over 15 years her senior and had a family. What are your concerns now about the policing of the nighttime economy?
They're there to protect women like myself from sexual predators, but they're partaking in those behaviours themselves. They're using it as an opportunity to get dates, get sex. It was like I was just a plaything and someone to laugh at. You know, the fact that I'm like calling you Danny and you're probably laughing thinking, stupid girl, that's not even my name. I remember he would tell me that he watched lots of ebony porn. He even sent me a photo of a screenshot of some ebony porn, which I was not expecting, and I was really shocked. He used to say that I remind him of Serena Williams, and he would have photo albums of Serena Williams and me. And the last time I saw him, he was with a girl who was very drunk. And I said, "Who is that?" And he said, "Oh, she was just drunk looking for directions." And I remember thinking, that's exactly how I met you.
We now know Jackie is not the only woman to make a historic complaint against this officer. In 2024, a misconduct hearing heard he had initiated a relationship with a 17-year-old he had responded to help. The teenager had been a victim of a crime and the officer had driven her home. He then used confidential information to find her. On social media, he sent the teenager an unsolicited friend request with the message, "So yeah, just thought I'd check in and make sure you sorted everything out okay." The teenager replied, thanking him for the lift. The officer responded, "I hadn't forgotten that you still owe me a drink for that, missy." The misconduct panel said this was a serious breach of the professional standard and a type of coercion. But before he was dismissed, the officer resigned. Following Jackie's complaint, he is now under criminal investigation for misconduct in a public office. The City of London Police are the investigating force, but since arresting him over a year ago, no charges have been issued. And the big questions now are over the investigation, and most concerningly, over the conduct of the investigating officers assigned to investigate Jackie's allegation.
The men who have been involved in my investigation have re-traumatized me because my officer in charge of the investigation, who was there at the time of the arrest, he is now under investigation for making inappropriate comments about my appearance and telling me that he essentially thinks I'm attractive. And then I meet him in person and he's checking me out. And he's telling me I'm photogenic. In my video recorded interview, I was crying in that interview.
After Jackie's complaint against the investigating officer, her trust was further damaged when she learnt the man now assigned to investigate him had stood trial for rape and was acquitted.
When I had found out that he stood trial for rape, I couldn't actually email him with a full account of my experience of my officer in charge because he's experienced his own allegation and has stood trial, and it made me feel really uncomfortable.
There are questions now facing the City of London police. Jackie believes the force misled her over pending charges, and the victim's commissioner has now told us this pattern has been a theme in their casework. The commissioner has now written to City of London police. In response, the force told us they accept Jackie's complaints and recognise the importance of trust. We referred all of the victims' concerns to the Independent Office for Police Conduct. When the watchdog referred the case back to be investigated by a local police force, City of London police said they passed the complaint to the British Transport Police for independent review. You came forward because you didn't want that officer to be able to use his position as a police officer to start more inappropriate relationships whilst out on duty. He is now no longer a serving officer. Action has been taken.
Yes, these officers are getting kicked out, but they're not looking into the conduct of behaviour. It's almost like, oh, well, he did this and he's out. And it's like, well, have you actually looked into previous complaints? Have you actually tried to get in touch with other victims that he's spoken with or dealt with?
Jackie is still waiting for an outcome. Her story raises questions over a unit meant to keep women safe and a system awaiting those with historic complaints.
The police complaint system has been the most traumatic experience of my life. I don't know that I could say to a woman, do it. I would be absolutely lying.
That was Simeon Brown with that report. The policing minister, Dame Diana Johnson, says predatory behaviour has no place in policing. I spoke to her earlier about the new police vetting rules that came into force today, but I began by asking her how concerned she is by Jackie's account of what she went through.
I'm not able to comment on the individual case, but what I do want to say is it concerns me greatly that we don't have high standards across policing, that there have been too many cases where members of the public and women in particular have not been well served, and that police officers for too long have been allowed to get away with it. So that's why this government is committed to raising standards. Just last week, we introduced a measure that if there's a finding of gross misconduct against an officer, there should then be a presumption of dismissal.
Right, I understand that, but I wanted to put one of the specifics to you. The investigating officer, having access to some of the evidence that included nude photographs of Jackie Adedeji, said that she was photogenic and that the officer had great taste as he met you. Should that person still be a serving officer?
The vast majority of police officers who are doing a good job day in, day out would be appalled to know that though that type of behaviour has been allowed to exist in policing and it needs to be removed, and those officers no longer able to wear the uniform. We want the highest standards, and we want women in particular, women and girls, to feel they can trust the police, and if they come forward, make complaints, that they are dealt with properly and professionally.
You spoke about vetting earlier and the changes to vetting. The Police Federation have expressed concern about it. So if you have this leadership from the top that is saying that we're going to take this seriously and everyone's going to be out, if the rank and file aren't behind that, you're not going to make much of a difference, are you?
Well, I think the rank and file want to make sure that any police officer who is a risk to colleagues in the police or to the public are no longer wearing a police uniform. That's what I pick up when I speak to police officers up and down the country. I think the Federation obviously have a role to make sure that procedures are fair and that it's right that they speak up for their members. But I would say that the Federation have also made clear that they want rid of officers who cannot pass vetting.
Sorry, would you trust the police to investigate, given the rise in sexual misconduct cases that we are seeing across England and Wales? This case that we've done has highlighted how appallingly a woman has been treated once she comes forward with concerns. Would you trust the police? Would you go to them?
I would go to the police, but I fully accept and understand why there is this feeling among certain groups in our communities of not trusting the police. And that's why, as the policing minister, I want to do everything I can, working with policing, to rebuild and restore that trust. But I think what's clear now is that we have a spotlight on the behaviours in the police that are not acceptable. And I think that's a good thing. And we can only now work to ensure that only the right people are in policing and not people who really are not fit to wear the police uniform.
Diana Johnson, thank you very much indeed for your time. Thank you.